Have you ever wondered why some days feel like you're walking through mud, even when you believe you're doing everything right? You pray, you read your Bible, you hold on to faith, and yet something still holds you back, like an invisible chain around your soul. It's as though you're stuck in a cycle of struggle, trying to rise, only to be pulled down again and again. It's not that you lack faith. No, you have it. But could it be that your very faith is what's holding you back? You see, faith is powerful. It's life-changing, transformative, and promises victory over every obstacle. But what if the way you've been exercising your faith isn't fully aligned with God's purpose for your life? What if you've been holding on to a version of faith that is, in reality, limiting your growth? The Bible talks about a faith that moves mountains, Matthew 17:20. But many of us only see the mountains getting taller. Could it be that your faith is too small for the magnitude of the life God has in store for you? Or perhaps you've mistaken the act of believing with the surrender of control. That's where the secret lies. Most chosen ones don't even realize how often they are holding themselves back by how they define their faith. Faith is not a passive belief. It is an active force. But for many, faith becomes a mental exercise. Believe in something and expect it to happen. What if that's the trap? What if God's plan for you requires not just belief, but a deeper surrender, a letting go of your own understanding of what faith should look like? The Bible warns us in Proverbs 3:5, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Yet, how often do we still lean on our own understanding, even when we think we're trusting God? You might be doing the right things, saying the right prayers, but subconsciously, you're trying to control the outcomes, trying to manipulate your faith into fitting a mold that makes you feel secure. That's a subtle form of resistance, a form of control that prevents God from working freely in your life. Imagine standing before God with all your hopes and dreams laid bare, but holding back just a small corner of your heart because you're not ready to release it completely. It's not because you don't trust Him, it's because you're afraid to trust fully. You're afraid of what He might ask you to do, where He might lead you, or how much it might cost you. But that fear is what keeps you trapped. The truth is, God's purpose for your life isn't tied to your ability to control every detail. It's tied to your willingness to surrender and follow. That's the faith that moves mountains. You've heard of the saying, "Let go and let God," but it's easier said than done. We are taught from a young age to take charge, to make things happen, to be self-reliant. And while those qualities can be useful in many areas of life, they can be detrimental to your spiritual journey if not aligned with God's will. The strength to carry your burdens comes not from your own effort, but from trusting in His grace. John 16:33 reminds us that, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." The victory is already won, but the journey requires you to trust that God has already paved the way. In the Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius speaks about the importance of accepting what we cannot control. This echoes God's message to us, to trust His plan, even when it doesn't make sense to our limited minds. Stoics find peace in accepting the present moment, understanding that our inner peace comes from our response to life, not from controlling it. This wisdom aligns perfectly with Christian teachings. Faith in God doesn't mean managing the outcome, but trusting that He holds the outcome, and we are to walk in His will with confidence, regardless of the circumstances. But this is the point where many believers miss the mark. It's not just about having faith as a passive form of belief. It's about trusting that God knows what's best, even when you don't understand why things are happening the way they are. The challenge is to let go of your own timeline and allow God to work in His time. You must stop asking, "Why isn't this working out?" and start asking, "What is God teaching me through this?" You might be waiting for the breakthrough, waiting for the miracle. But what if the breakthrough isn't a change in circumstances, but a change in you? What if the biggest obstacle you need to overcome is not the world around you, but the limiting beliefs you hold about what faith is supposed to look like? Your faith may not be the problem. It's the way you're exercising it. Faith is not a transaction. It's a trust in God's process. It's not a way to manipulate your circumstances. It's a way to align yourself with God's will. The truth is, faith is not about asking God to bend the world to your will. It's about bending your will to God's. This is where the struggle often lies. You see, many of us approach faith like it's a tool, a means to get what we want, when we want it. But that's not how God designed it to work. Faith is not a magic trick to make life easier. It's the key that unlocks the door to a deeper relationship with Him. And when we use it as anything else, we're actually misusing the very thing that's meant to bring us peace, fulfillment, and growth. How many times have you prayed for something, and when it didn't happen the way you expected, you felt disappointed? Maybe you thought that your faith wasn't strong enough, or that God was ignoring you. But what if that disappointment is a sign that your faith isn't where it needs to be? Maybe your faith has been more about what you want than about what God knows is best for you. When you trust God with your heart fully, you begin to see that His timing, His decisions, and His wisdom are always greater than your own. There's a hidden blessing in the unanswered prayers, in the delay, in the waiting. The Bible tells us in James chapter 1:4, "Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." God is not trying to withhold good from you. He's trying to grow something inside of you. That's the divine purpose at work. It's not just about getting what you asked for. It's about becoming the person who is prepared to handle what God has for you. And this is the deeper mystery. The transformative power of faith isn't in getting what you want, but in becoming who you're meant to be. God's purpose for you isn't about your personal gain or your temporary happiness. It's about your eternal growth, your spiritual maturity, and your alignment with His divine will. And sometimes, this process requires a breaking down, a pruning of your desires, a reshaping of your heart. God can't pour new wine into old wineskins. Luke chapter 5, 37-38. If you are still holding on to your old ways of thinking, still trying to control the outcome, still stuck in the mindset that you need to have everything figured out, then God's plans for you will remain confined. So, the question isn't why things haven't gone the way you expected. The real question is, what are you going to do with what God has given you right now? Are you going to trust that He knows what's best for you, even when the circumstances seem impossible? Can you surrender your limited understanding and fully rely on His divine wisdom? The process of faith is not about gaining control. It's about releasing control. And it's in that release that you'll find true freedom. We all want instant results, don't we? We want the answer right now, the breakthrough in this moment. But faith is a journey, not a destination. And while it may feel like you're standing still, God is working behind the scenes, shaping your heart, preparing your path and making sure you're ready for the blessings ahead. The key is to trust Him when you can't see the way forward. Psalm 23:4 reminds us, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." Even in the unknown, God's presence is your comfort. This is where the Stoic wisdom of accepting what is beyond your control becomes so powerful. Seneca taught that the path to tranquility is to focus on what you can control and let go of the rest. In the same way, your faith grows when you let go of your need to control the outcome. The Christian walk is not about demanding things from God. It's about trusting His divine purpose and timing. When you stop trying to bend God's will to fit your desires and instead bend your will to His, you step into a new level of spiritual freedom. You might be wondering, but how do I know I'm doing this right? The answer lies in peace. True peace comes when you let go of the need to control everything and simply trust that God has a plan for you. Philippians chapter 4:7 says, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This peace doesn't make sense to the world, but it makes perfect sense to those who walk by faith. Your faith isn't a burden, it's the lifeline to your spiritual rebirth. The struggle, the waiting, the trials, they are all part of the process. And when you surrender fully to God's will, you will discover that the chains you once felt were holding you back were never really there. They were self-imposed, born of your desire to control and manipulate your faith to suit your needs. When you let go, God will show you a freedom you never knew existed. And in that freedom, you will find your true strength. You see, there's a hidden danger in holding on too tightly to the illusion of control. The more you try to manage the outcome, the less you allow God to fully work in your life. It's as though you're boxing Him in, trying to tell Him how and when to move, when, in reality, His ways are infinitely greater than anything you can imagine. Isaiah 55:8-9. This is the divine paradox. Your faith can only truly flourish when you let go of your grip and let God take the lead. The moment you release your fear, your worry, and your need to direct every step, you open the door for God's power to move in ways that will astound you. But this surrender is not about passivity. It's not about sitting back and waiting for life to just happen. On the contrary, true faith calls you to be actively engaged in the present, trusting in God's guidance while remaining open to His direction. There is an urgency here, a need to understand that your destiny is not something to be simply awaited, it's something to be aligned with. When you actively choose to let go of your personal plans and surrender to the divine flow of God's will, you begin to move in harmony with His purpose, not against it. At this point, many will feel the pull of doubt. Doubts that creep in like whispers, trying to convince you that your faith is too small, that you're not doing enough, that God isn't listening. But let me tell you something. That's the trick of the enemy, trying to make you believe you are the one who has to control everything. That's the world's voice, not God's. When you feel that weight of doubt pressing down on you, remember the words of Jesus in Matthew 11:28-30. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This invitation is not a suggestion. It's a command to stop striving and start trusting. God is telling you, let go of the weight of control and take on my yoke, the yoke of faith that rests in surrender. The burden of trying to control every outcome, to force your way through life, will drain you. But when you release that control to Him, He will carry the weight of it all, and you will find rest in the process. Think about how often we hold on to things that weigh us down. Our past mistakes, our unfulfilled expectations, our fears about the future. These are the burdens that keep us trapped in a cycle of striving. But the beauty of faith is that it doesn't require you to have it all figured out. It requires you to trust in God's plan, even when you don't see the full picture. When you surrender those burdens, He takes them from you. This is the divine exchange, your heaviness for His lightness. This is where the transformative power of faith truly lies. It's not in accumulating more knowledge or trying harder to be good enough. It's in the willingness to let go of everything that doesn't align with God's will and trusting that He will guide you. Faith is not about forcing the outcome, but about allowing God to work through your life, even when it doesn't look the way you imagined. And this is where many get stuck. When things don't look the way we imagined, we question whether God is still working. But the truth is, His work is often hidden in the mess, in the waiting, in the moments of uncertainty. Just because you can't see the change doesn't mean it isn't happening. God is shaping you in the unseen moments, refining your heart, building your character, and preparing you for the blessings that are on the way. It's often in the darkest moments that His light shines the brightest. But you must have the faith to trust that He is with you every step of the way, even when the path is unclear. In the Stoic tradition, there's a teaching about how the obstacles in our path are actually the path itself. The challenges, the delays, the struggles, they are not detours from your purpose. They are the very means by which God is refining you. Think about it. Every trial you face, every moment of doubt, every setback, it's an opportunity to surrender further, to trust more deeply, to align more fully with God's purpose. And through that process, your faith grows stronger, deeper, and more unwavering. The enemy wants you to believe that every delay, every struggle, every unanswered prayer is a sign that God isn't listening or that your faith isn't enough. But this is the lie. The truth is, every challenge is an invitation to go deeper into the heart of God. It's an invitation to let go of your plans and to trust that God's plans are greater. Romans chapter 8:28 reminds us that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Even in the waiting, even in the struggles, God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything for your good. So let go. Release the need to control the outcome. Trust that God knows the way. Your faith will no longer be a limitation, but a conduit for divine power, transforming your life in ways you can't yet comprehend. The peace you seek, the breakthrough you're waiting for, it's all found in surrender. The chosen one does not chase temptation. They walk in God's light.